Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Gazelle podcast. We are delighted today to be joined obviously by Gary. We don't go anywhere without each other these days. But a guest, and quite a special guest actually, for Gazelle today. So, a recently acquired new friend of Gazelle, but somebody that Gary in the business has known for quite some time. So we'd like to introduce, Mark Taylor, who, might tell us a little bit about yourself and the business that you're here representing.
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me. I'm Mark Taylor from Chartergate Legal Services. I was told I was doing a podcast with Gary, hoping it was Gary Lineker, but I've been hoodwinked, but two Garys, so it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, so I'm from Chartergate Legal Services. We are a legal consultancy specialising in tax, VAT and employment law and some regulatory areas. And we have, our specialist sectors kind of advising people in the construction industry, umbrella companies, employment businesses. So we do the advice, but most importantly, and I think this is why there's probably quite a lot of synergy with Gazelle, is we look after our clients from start to finish, if that makes sense. So, if I advise a client, if I've drafted their contracts and then they have an inquiry with the revenue or an employment tribunal, it'll be me representing them. So I'm not chucking the papers to someone else 2 days before the hearing saying, this guy's looking after you now, but he doesn't know you. We do that as well. And so it's that all-around service that we like to offer to our clients in the areas that we specialise in. And I think you can only really do that if you specialise.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that resonates hugely, as you know, and as we know, sort of getting to know one another. I know you've not really, we'll talk more and we'll be launching some stuff together over the coming days, which is really exciting. I think, there's a natural fit between the two businesses, which we'll cover off. But I think, you've obviously known, Gary here for some time, together. So it's really, really positive that we find ourselves here working with such a, experienced and professional outfit like yourselves. Just tell us a bit about your story. Tell us, what sort of got you to where you're at today, Mark.
Okay, yeah. So I started, I've been in the industry now for well over 20 years. Started at a owner-managed business, which was basically a tax consultancy. And then they started getting into the legal side of things. So they brought some legally qualified people on. I was one of those, but very fresh-faced. But because it was owner-managed, learnt a lot about business as well. So almost learnt the other side of it, straight out of university. I've read the textbooks and then you learn that, business doesn't necessarily operate as they told me in the textbooks. If any of my university lecturers are watching, maybe I didn't read the textbooks. So started out there, learnt a lot, developed from there. And then that business was acquired, by a PLC and that was fine. That was a nice part of the management team. So I learned a lot about larger businesses, with that side of things. But really, when it was acquired again, really wanted to get back to being able to just advise and represent clients how I wanted to. And that's not a criticism of the businesses that I worked for. Yeah. It's just about at some point you decide, what is my path? Yeah. And my path was doing things my way. Yeah. And I do appreciate that I'm quite lucky to be able to do that. Not everyone has that choice. And there's a risk involved. But it's worked out well. So I'm, running a business, but also able to keep my hand in and advise clients on a day-to-day basis. The clients that started with us in 2013, they still pick up the phone to me. Yeah. And that's, sometimes it's like, I've got business to run, but it's also quite heartening that, I'm the first person they call. Even if, I've had calls from clients saying, they've arrested my boat in France. What can I do about this? I have no idea, but thanks for thinking of me.
I'm going to chat through that textbook and see where that one is.
Exactly.
I think obviously that resonates massively in terms of what we are as a business. Again, what we were saying before, that whole, been able to pick up the phone to whether it's the founder, the senior guys in the business or whatever else. It's you grow with those clients, and it's important that you kind of remember that. And you're further on in your journey as a business at Chartergates than we are at Gazelle. But one of the things I'm really keen, it's not the theme of the podcast, but I'm really interested to find out a bit more about how you've managed to keep that balance. So as businesses scale, which is inevitable, right? Good businesses grow. You bring more good people on, etc. How have you been able to manage that, and have you been able to sort of balance that in the business?
Yeah, you said the word people.
Yeah.
I remember when had a conversation with the the owner of the business when I first started, and he knew we were setting up on our own. And he said to me, the hardest thing you'll find is people. And yeah, finding good people is so important to us when we like to do things differently. Mm-hmm. So it could be a brand new trainee. Yeah. It could be someone with 10, 15 years experience. If they can't work in the way we like to work, mm-hmm. or they can't service the clients the way we want them to, that it's never going to work. And that's not a criticism on them. They do things differently. So finding the people that fit with your ideas, your energy and your way of doing things, that's the most important thing. Mm-hmm. And we've been quite lucky. I've just had some really good people join us. Some of them from the very beginning. 6 months in, we were lucky enough to be able to have enough business at the start to employ people early. Mm-hmm. And that really helps, because when you're saying to them, this is how I want to do things, if they believe in it, that sells it to the clients, that makes the service better. And I guess empowering them to take risks. So to say to them, this is what you want to argue. Mm-hmm. These are my thoughts, but go argue it. Go argue it. And they just have to know you've got their back, I think. So people's the biggest thing. I think also I started off with Matt Boddington. We set up the business together and we worked together previously. And that's the biggest thing. I think you have to have a really good relationship with the person you start knowing, that you can lean on them and rely on them. And I think it's probably, we've always had that great balance of being good friends, mm-hmm. so we care about each other, mm-hmm. but if this makes sense, not such good friends that you can't have a difficult conversation if you need to. Not so you're not treading on eggshells with each other. But close enough to know we're in this together. Sometimes we joke, it's mutually assured destruction if we get it wrong. And you build over time. And I think keeping the good people is the hardest part. Mm-hmm. And I always come back to, remember how you felt when you decided to leave. And look for those signs with your people. And I think that's the biggest thing.
I think that's, again, so powerful. I mean, I could ask you about this stuff all day, and I know Gary's got some really exciting questions to ask you in a second. But last point on the subject for me, and I think, something that I'm really passionate about, we are as a business, and we've talked a lot about on previous podcasts, is around, nurturing new talent and young talent and bringing people through into industries. And I think there's so many similarities across multiple industries, and I think some people might find your industry sexier than ours or whatever else. But how do you do that? No, I'm trying to be kind of the guest. So how does that work for you? Have you found a sort of almost a lack of talent been available compared to maybe where you were before, or is it you still got good people coming through, and it's, I guess there's more firms chasing those people as well?
I think that's the thing. So I think, when COVID happened and suddenly you had to contemplate, people can actually work from home. Opened up our talent pool considerably. So suddenly it wasn't a case of, I need you in the office. So, during COVID, we actually employed Richard, an employment law consultant based in York, not far from here. Where he tells me this isn't actually. So I think it's hard to find people that are good and fit. You can find plenty of good lawyers, but they don't fit, and you can find plenty of people that fit that just aren't good lawyers. And funny enough, it's harder to say goodbye to the people that fit but aren't good lawyers, because you have a genuine rapport with them.
Of course,
But keeping them is the most important thing. And I think also recognizing when they know more than you about something, and how that can help the business. So, the shackles aren't mine, and I don't hold them down. And, like I said, I started here over 20 years ago. So there's people coming through that will have a different view of things. Will, think podcasts are a good idea. That sort of whereas, I prefer a seminar. But, so that, and that's important though, for recognizing that and giving them room to grow, because in an ideal world, they'll be running the business one day, and I'll be doing my bit. But you've got to recognise that at some point, if it's going to grow, might not be just because of me and Matt. It might be because of other people. In fact, it definitely will be because of other people.
And I totally agree. And again, I'm going to talk about this subject all day, but talking about young talent, I'm going to bring Gary in.
Young talent.
Again, got to be kind. This is going out to tens of people. Gary, I know you've got... I got some killer questions there, so crack on.
Yeah, so great to have you on the podcast. And it's kind of perfect timing, really, because there's just so much going on out there. I mean, you must find that your services have never been more in demand.
Yeah, I think, so much going on, whether it's the umbrella company tax reforms, whether it's the employment rights bill, just, so much happening. I guess the best way to describe it is, over the 20 years, there's always been something coming that has affected some of our clients. I don't think there's ever been something where I can't think of a client where they won't need advice or they won't need their documents redrafted. This actually affects everyone in one way or another. Wherever they are in the supply chain, whatever way they are engaging individuals, it affects everyone. And that's good from a business perspective, but also a little bit scary as well for the clients, because they know, we've spent all these years saying to people, trying to be pragmatic, not overselling a law when it comes in. So when we say to our clients, this is actually going to affect you and there's going to be work involved, they know it's true. And they know it means it's serious, because we spent so much time, I guess, batting back against the sensationalism that sometimes comes with legislation when it comes out, or a certain piece of case law. This is going to affect everyone. It's massive. So
Yeah, and I hope it doesn't sound dramatic, but as you kind of touched on there, it seems like an unprecedented period of change. You've got just challenges. You've got kind of economic headwinds. So, hiring costs up, hiring generally is down. And then on the back of that, you've got employment rights bill, as you said, joined in several liability with the new umbrella regs.
Yes.
And as you say, there's been, IR35, which impacted some people and not others.
Yeah.
This impacts everybody.
Yeah, and I think the thing with this is, I think normally you look at it and you're right. You've got the market conditions, and they are all saying it's not a good idea for new legislation and things that are going to cost business money. But then you've got the promises that were made by the government that they feel, quite rightly, they need to stick to when they got elected. You can argue they haven't stuck to many promises, but this seems to be one of the
That's a whole other podcast.
Sorry. They've got they're bringing these things in. They've done a lot of consultation, so hopefully that means what they bring in will be tempered. But businesses are in a position now where they've got a lot more legislation to comply with, and legislation that is going to affect their costs at a time when growing revenue is really, really difficult, and that makes it hard. And I suppose coming to the umbrella tax reforms and the joint and several liability, you've got businesses in the supply chain now that have to do more due diligence, which is costly, because they are now, and many will argue quite rightly, potentially liable for tax errors. Which makes the whole process and costs of engaging people more costly at a time, like I said, when they can't really afford it. And that's where businesses have got a choice, I think, here. It's the easy route of looking like they're complying, looking like they've done their due diligence by, businesses coming to them and saying we're compliant and taking their word for it, or doing their own due diligence. And I can understand why the cheaper option is attractive right now, because they're looking at their costs going up everywhere else. They're skyrocketing. But the cost of getting this wrong are going to be potentially, business destroying. That's where we are. With the tax reforms, that's where we are.
Yeah, I think, that's a term that we use a lot, isn't it? The cost of getting it wrong, the cost of not complying, it resonates from an insurance perspective as much as it does from a legal perspective. Just interestingly, in terms of, obviously, say there's a relationship here between our businesses and we're supporting one another and supporting one another's clients, which is great. How do you see that sort of synergy between the legal side and the insurance side kind of working together? Why is it important to have these relationships?
And I think it probably comes back to how the umbrella tax reforms are coming in. I mean, what we're saying to our clients here is, now that more than one party in the chain can be liable, you've got to work together. So I'm saying because sometimes in the supply chain, I'll have more than one client, depending where they are. And I'll be saying to them, you need to share information, you need to collaborate more on your documents, and you need to get advice that's joined up. So I'm saying that to my clients, that's how you need to behave. So I need to be able to offer them services more than just, well, look, I'm a specialist.
Yeah.
So I'll do my bit and, you know, you'll have to find someone else to help you with the other stuff. Now I need to be able to say to them, well, I'm telling you, you've got to work together.
Yeah.
So I need to find ways of bringing services to them that I can't go out and just, because I'll always be a specialist. So I can't just pretend, okay, I'm in insurance now, or I'm doing this law now. We've always kept strictly, we do what we know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got to bring other services along. And if I'm saying to people there are greater risks involved, then they're going to say, you know, do you know anyone who can insure me?
Yeah. And just to touch on the size of those risks, I mean, we have seen some umbrella company failures recently.
Yeah.
And when you look at the accounts, we're talking millions and millions in unpaid tax. So it's not a small thing. It's a kind of proper business risk that could take you down with it.
Yeah. And depending on, you know, what those taxes are.
Yeah.
So with the new legislation, if it's employment taxes, that's going to fall on someone else in the chain with the joint and several liability. In fact, and I think this is important for businesses that use intermediaries, it can potentially fall on you even if the other umbrella company doesn't go out of business. They just make an error or they just choose not to pay it. The revenue essentially get to pick where they go now.
Yeah.
And given the whole point of this legislation is to, as it says in the consultations, make the agencies liable. I think we can guess where they want to go, where they see the money. I mean, you mentioned failings.
Yeah.
That's what this legislation is there to guard against.
Yeah.
Umbrella companies will fail, will fold because they're employing and paying so many people. The numbers are huge. So the revenue's looking at, well, where are we more likely to get the money if there is some defaulting businesses? And it is at the agencies where, you know, the bills will be lower because they'll be spread out amongst the agencies, or because the agencies are just more established and can't afford to fold. And, you know, if it's not if there's no umbrella in the chain, then it's the agency and then the end client who's even bigger and more established. Definitely cannot afford to fold. Because they won't come back.
No. So, of course, we've got the joint and several liability in the umbrella regs. We've also got the employment rights bill.
Yes.
Lots of fun things happening. So where's that up to at the moment?
Okay, so the employment rights bill right now is still in Parliament. And the House of Lords have had a look, suggested some amendments. A lot of people got excited about some of the amendments and then realised they came from non-Labour peers. So, you know, what you might call sensible amendments, but definitely not going to pass amendments. I think we can categorise them as. So that's back in Parliament.
Yep.
Looking for royal assent. I mean, what they have done is already put some of these changes into the long grass. So they've moved the dates along. So, for example, things like the day one right for unfair dismissal, you're looking at 2027 now, whereas before they were saying autumn 26, because they want to consult on it. And you take what you can get. So you're like, well, that's good. They're consulting. That's good. If I'm being picky, do the consultation before you write the law. I understand why you wanted to keep your 100-day promise. But it's getting delayed so much. I don't think even the staunchest Labour supporter can say you've kept that promise. Because I don't think... Look, legislation always needs... tinkering with. It always needs changes. It always needs consultation. But I don't think I've ever seen such a wide-ranging piece of legislation as the Employment Rights Bill that required so much consultation. I mean, huge details missing.
Right.
And they still announced it.
Right.
So you're creating a lot of uncertainty. I've got clients calling me up, or I'm doing seminars and I'm saying we've got to wait for the detail. And I was thinking, why am I even here? And it's like, you know, well, it's a heads up at the very least. But you know, so we don't know any of the real detail at what's going to trigger the day one right. Will it be different from normal unfair dismissal? And I get it. They had to keep their promise, their 100-day promise, but they haven't really kept it because there's so many holes still to be filled in. We don't really know what's coming yet.
And if anything, made it more confusing by, as you say, announcing something without really announcing anything and the change around it. And I think just interested about sort of communication of these kind of changes. How do you find, so yes, you say there's seminars and various different things, but from a client perspective, right, as a business owner, we know, right, we've got plenty of other things to be getting on with, and we've got our experts that will help us and support us and things. But, you know, as the layman, as the business owner, the people that are affected by these bills or legislation, how do you find that communication? You know, does it fall on us? Does it fall on you guys to have to share that, or is this something that, you know, has been, well, it's not been communicated well, but what's your views?
Yes, I think the way we're lucky, like I said, that we've never been sensationalists to, you know, make changes to people's documents or give them advice that they didn't need. So all of our clients know when we say it's big, that they need to pay heed.
Yeah.
But they also know that we'll be in touch when there's something tangible. So a couple of weeks ago, we did a webinar for some of our clients on the umbrella tax reforms. And I think it's bit by bit. So you don't want to do too much because it's still in draft. The consultation's closed for those now. So we should get final legislation soon. And we don't anticipate huge changes, but you never know. So it's almost like the starter. That was the starter for us. Not too early, you know, day after the draft legislation was announced, doing a webinar pretending we know what's going on. Doing something at a period when we're saying, right, this is forewarning now. This is what it is likely to look like. But don't rush off and do anything because legislation changes even at the last minute. We've had that in the past, largely because they wait to see what happens in the consultation. People say, have you thought about this? Or someone goes on LinkedIn and says, we've got this great solution. And then the government says, oh, okay. Let's sort that out. So I think it's about, right now, it's about having clients and businesses ready, knowing that they're going to have to do something. And with the tax reforms, have to do something relatively quickly, but not pulling the trigger yet. Because they're, you know, without the final legislation, it's just not time.
Don't know what trigger you're pulling, do you? And I think I think, you know, we live in an age of information and podcasts and, you know, everyone's talking about everything all the time, but quite often with that comes, and, you know, we see that if you follow American politics, for instance. We had some American guests on a recent podcast, and, you know, I could have talked about that. We did offline talk about that for a long time. Fascinating, some of the stuff that's out there right now about information and misinformation. But I think from my perspective, it's tough, isn't it? As I think as you know, there's always so much change and so many things going on. I think the key thing comes back to, and it's more of a statement than a question, I think, and I'm sure something that we've already sort of agreed on almost, is that getting the right advice, having the right partnerships, having the right people in place. And I think it lends itself to, you know, as we would to you, obviously, from a client's perspective. And again, we'll share more information about it. You know, we'll be pushing clients towards having these conversations with you guys and kind of vice versa. But it's just so important nowadays in a world where everything's kind of available at the click of a button. And actually, you're not just clicking buttons, you are speaking to experts.
Yes. Yeah. And I think part of that is, and the conversation needs to be longer than a soundbite. And I think that's really important that people recognise that, you know, sound bites can be the trigger to go get advice. Oh, okay, this is big, I need to think about it. But you can't take advice just from a sound bite. You've then got to go and get your own advice. And I think, like I said, with the tax reforms that are coming in, because suddenly parties further up the chain can be liable that couldn't before, and because they are affected differently in the legislation, depending where they are in the chain, it's never been more important to take your own advice about your own position. And that's not to say that someone, you know, one of your suppliers hasn't got good advice as well. But it will be, you know, in the end, it will be advice for them. It's like when I've got clients that are in the same supply chain in different places, the advice is different for each.
Of course it is.
You know, that's the reality of where we are. So it's about taking detailed advice. And then making your own business decisions on how you move forward with that.
And of course, with April, you know, time goes fast. April will soon be upon us.
It will.
If recruiters haven't had that advice yet, is it too late, or is there still plenty of time to get that done?
It's definitely not too late to get going. I mean, even if it was, you've still got to do something because this is coming and it's big. I think, no, like I said, we haven't got final legislation yet. So right now is the time to take some advice on what's likely to happen, and then start doing your internal due diligence in terms of how's this going to affect us, what will our numbers look like, but also most importantly, I think, speaking to your clients, because this is aimed at recruitment businesses. So if you haven't done anything and you don't know about it, that's one thing. Your clients are even less likely to have done anything or know about it. And I think in terms of client care, if you are speaking to your clients now, they'll remember that later. I mean, there's a temptation to, we won't mention it until we absolutely have to. But then when it's too late and you're saying to clients, look, costs are going up, or we've got to completely change how we engage the individuals, that's not going to look good. That's not going to win your business or keep your business.
No.
So I think, due diligence now, and then get ready for the legislation and the changes and take advice again. And I think, like I said, part of this is it's on me to be ready. I've told everyone, be ready. So we need to be ready with the final legislation to have our ducks in a row, to be able to give the advice, and most importantly, the individual independent advice that people need, because it's not going to be the same for everyone.
Yeah.
And the idea that you can, box this up and send it out to, 100 recruitment businesses and it'll all be the same.
Yeah.
That might get you through. But if you want to be telling your clients they're protected, you've got to do your own work as well.
Yeah.
But it's
And I
definitely
suppose
not
you want to have those conversations before somebody else does.
Yes.
With those clients, and things like due diligence, that's just a good idea anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Kind of new regs or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Due diligence is a good idea anyway. Should have been done. Probably the fact that there's legislation gives you an idea how much of it was actually being done. But I think, and I think what recruitment businesses have always been good at is marketing and getting in front of clients. And like you said, this is on the one hand a problem or a pain for recruitment businesses because it's a lot of change at a time when revenues aren't growing necessarily, but it's also an opportunity. And the ones that take the best advice, the ones that do the best due diligence, the ones that are communicating with their clients the best will do the best. And when the sands shift.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because it's, it can sound a bit doom and gloom.
Yeah.
But with any kind of element of doom and gloom, there's always the opportunities that come out of that for those kind of first movers and the people who get ahead of it.
Yeah, and by first mover, I don't mean go to your clients now and say, we've got a solution, because, you're either pulling the fast one, being very optimistic, or you're going to be incredibly lucky if the legislation fits exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
But going to your clients and saying, we understand what's coming in, we've got good advice, we've done our bit, we'll help you do your bit. And then when we've got the final legislation, let's work together to make this work for everyone, including, let's not forget, the individuals that are doing the work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gary, I'm going to put you on the spot for
thank you.
Now, just to make sure that you're awake and listening. So I know you prepare heavily for these podcasts, and
I've got so many notes with me.
These wonderful questions. But I think just in terms of the relationship that we've now got with Chartergates, I just wanted to touch on that a little bit, obviously, and your history. And I guess from a Gazelle perspective, we are going to be pointing people towards Mark and his business a lot, and it's great that we'll be reciprocating there. There's that relationship there. But Gary, do you want to just sort of touch on from our perspective why Chartergates and not somebody else?
Yeah, absolutely. And like the best of these relationships, they grow organically. We've known each other for a period of time now. We've had clients go both ways. And the feedback that's always come back from my clients when I spoke to you guys is, thank you, Gary. Thank you for putting us in touch with Chartergates. That was fantastic. We'll crack on with that. But, thank you. So I've always been really impressed that it's not just that knowledge that they're getting the right advice. It's also been a bit of a value add for me in that, it helps, I'm viewed as the kind of trusted advisor there. So it's always been, as I say, a value add.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, it like I said, it goes back to when you're talking about the people you want to work for you. You've got to fit well. And you've got to think the same, and you've got to have the same values in terms of how you look after your clients. And like you said, those partnerships work best when they're organic. So, we've tried it over time, with no formal relationship, if you like. And those are the ones that are best to turn into formal relationships. Because if you're happy to do it informally, and you're getting the good feedback both ways, then it's going to work formally as well. And I think it doesn't feel like a risk in an age with a lot of risks.
Well, absolutely. I think, just from a sort of personal perspective here, I sit back and look at, arrangements like we have in place and announcements that we'll be making together and working together and everything else is, it's such a powerful thing for us. But, we're a young brand still. I think it's we're not young people. We've been around the market for a number of years. Some of us more than others. But I think, those relationships are really important. I think there's so many sort of synergies between your business and our business, and in terms of the way that you service clients, the way that that culture that flows through the organisation from top to bottom. So it kind of makes sense for us. But I think, it's also a bit of a coup for Gazelle. I think let's be honest. We're not the first insurance broker that would have knocked on your door and said we'd love to deal with you as well. So to the to the competition. I mean, that was the least professional thing I've probably ever done in my entire life. Well, actually, no, it wasn't. It's the least professional thing I've ever done on camera in my entire life.
Glad I didn't watch these before.
No, it's not. Of course you watched them before. No, we'll edit that out. Of course you watched them before. No, but I think, look, it is really powerful. I think it's a start. You know, you say you're a more established business, but actually ignoring that, you're really established in your industry, in your team, what you do. We are in ours. So I think, you know, coming together and working much closer together can only be a benefit for our clients ultimately. That's what this is about.
Absolutely.
It's not you know, people get excited about commercial relationships and revenues and things. This is actually about, you know, we generally want to offer that service to our clients and give them the best advice. And, you know, as you said before, Mark, we're not the right people to give them advice on everything. And it's pointing them in the right direction of people that we know will give them that sort of support on things. And hopefully that comes across obviously on both sides. It feels like it.
Yeah, absolutely does. Yeah.
Yeah.
As we said before, there's never been a more important time for this type of support as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's where, you know, we could have done what we've always done, which is stay on our lane, do our advice, be the specialists, clients like us. That's fine. But like you said, it's about giving them more at a time when they need more.
Yeah.
And making sure they have what they need outside of our specialisms more than ever before. Yeah. And that's why we're doing this, because it's important to be able to offer that to our clients, not because I have to, or because I need to, or because if I don't, they're going to look for someone that does have an insurance partner, because they're not, because they've been with me for years. Yeah. But because I genuinely want to see them get through these changes in this difficult period and still be strong businesses.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Gary, I don't know if you've got any more of your written down killer questions, right? But look, I'm conscious of, so we could do these things, and I'm sure we'll get you on as a guest again, Mark, because it's, there's so much to talk about. And I think especially as, as these reforms and bills continue and change is ahead. And when we are at a point, I guess, of giving more direct advice on some of these things, I think it'd be really important that we kind of manage our, a lot of our clients do watch these these videos. I'm sure some of yours will do too, hopefully in future. So from our perspective, it's been really, really great to have you on. So thank you for making the effort of driving up to rainy Yorkshire. We've got some builders outside that are desperate to finish a job, but we've told them to shut up now for about half an hour, 40 minutes. So they're on the clock. So we'll exactly. So we'll call it there. But no, listen, been another great conversation. Thanks ever so much for your time. Obviously, we'll be sending out your contact details and your businesses to a lot of our clients, and it'll be advertised through our website, and we'll put some contact information things out and about Chartergates as part of the podcasts as well. So everybody able to see a little bit more about Chartergates. I'm sure you've already heard of them if you're in the industry. But thanks ever so much for your time. And cheers. And thanks, Gary.
Thanks.